On to the Randy Karraker Show featuring Brooke Grimsley on Sports Hub STL. Did you know that Sports Hub STL is presented by DraftKings? The crown is yours. Okay, I'm smiling right now. I'm smiling. The Blues lost in double overtime.
Oh, Randy.
Hashtag sad.
It is sad, but what a journey it was.
It was a great journey. And I think that if you would have asked Jim Montgomery when he took over, or Doug Armstrong when he made that coaching change, or maybe even Doug Armstrong at the beginning of the season when we talked to him and he said, yeah, I expect that this team is going to make the playoffs. I think if you would have told those guys, you'll go to double overtime, we're going to tell you what the outcome is going to be, but you get to go to double overtime in game 7 of the first round of the playoffs. You don't know how it's going to turn out. You might win, you might lose. Would you take it? And I think they would have.
You would take it. You would take it 100%. Of course, it was really hard the way that it ended.
Yeah.
You mentioned double overtime, but they had a 3-2 lead right until the last second. And I felt like I was holding my breath. How many times did you guys feel like you were holding your breath during the game?
I had to tell myself to breathe.
Yeah, because you were just waiting. And then, of course, the way that it ended up there, Ehlers was able to score with just like a second left. It was right there. And then you knew, okay, I felt like at that moment, even though it was going to overtime, I knew that they had the momentum and they were probably going to win in overtime. It ended up being double overtime, but still, you knew that was probably going to end up with the Jets on top. The way that the Blues, they played great the entire game. But when you actually look at the end there, they were outshot after the first period.
They were awesome in the first period. And as you know, the Jets didn't even have a scoring chance. But then second period, third period, first overtime, actually, the second overtime was pretty even.
Yeah.
But I thought that the Jets really took it to the Blues. And I think that's part of being a young team on the road and not having been through this before. I think there were a lot of positives to be gleaned from the playoff series. I'm not so sure that the Blues would have won a game against Dallas if they would have played
if you
Dallas.
saw that this weekend.
Yeah, they play a different game than the Blues do or the Jets do. But Andrew Rogers from the TV show looked it up. The Blues allowed 13 sixth attacker goals this year, by far the worst in the NHL. That's something that in his first training camp in 25 that Jim Montgomery is going to have to work on. You have to have a system. Sometimes you got to score an empty net goal. Get the puck and score an empty net goal.
I was very concerned about that. And we know that that's been an issue for the Blues all season. And Montgomery was asked about it last night. And he didn't want to keep going over and over the 6-on-5 issues that we've seen, but that has been a big issue for the Blues this entire season that of course carried on to that situation there at the end. But there's still a lot of positives and there's some negatives there that you saw there at the end. The biggest positive I had is I had zero expectations for the Blues going into this season, and they surpassed everything. Bringing in Jim Montgomery, the best move by far, because now you see all this young talent shine. Jimmy Snuggerud was great. The best rookie during the playoffs that I think we've seen so far this season. And the way that he's coming in, and you'll have him under Jim Montgomery, the way that you've had all these other younger players too continue to grow, and then that they will grow, because if there's anything that we learned this weekend, you mentioned that Dallas Stars game, the division is really tough. You can't have a complete rebuild because of how hard it is in the division to compete. I mean, Mikko Rantanen, geez, don't you think the Avs miss him?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, when you have Dallas, when you have the Avalanche, Winnipeg is still going to be good, even though they have their whiner head coach. They're still going to be okay.
I guess the whining worked out for him, for our deal. Huh?
Tell me this, because we've kind of worked past this as a fan base, because playoff series takes a couple of weeks. But I kind of think if Dylan Holloway would have played the series, the Blues would have won.
I think that would have made a huge difference for them. And I hate to say that, but when you lose a player like that, who's accounted for so many points during the regular season, you lose him down the stretch. Obviously, he was not available for the playoffs. You wonder what it would have looked like, because that would have made a huge difference in this series to have another threat. But I mean, the guys that I was not expecting to step up, Nathan Walker is an unsung hero of this playoff series that we were able to see there. The way that he really just made a huge difference. We saw Montgomery, he set the tone a lot of the times by sending out that WTF line, and they were able to set that table.
And I wonder if they keep Faksa around. He's one of the few unrestricted free agents they have on this team. You have Dvorsky on the way, and at some point you're going to have to play him, but is next year the time to play him? Or do you try to keep Radek Faksa around and kind of run it back with this group of players?
You like this group of players.
Yeah.
You do. I mean, I was surprised by Faxa too, and he had his first goal of the series as well last night. But I noticed a huge difference with that WTF line. They were really excited to see, and they created that chaos that Montgomery talked about before the game.
Okay, I'm going to give, and I hate to do this because I really don't like their team, but I'm going to give Winnipeg credit here. I think that Winnipeg won. I don't think the Blues lost that game as much as Winnipeg won it. I think after the first period, Winnipeg, like we said, took it to the Blues. And I think that they, over the course of periods 2, 3, first overtime, second overtime, I think Winnipeg was just the better team.
Well, they are the President's Trophy winners, and that's what they showcased there at the end. And that, I thought the Blues, though, the way that they pushed them to the brink in this series overall, they were right there toe-to-toe with them. So that should be encouraging moving forward. Now, for all the people who are coming on the chat, tell us what you thought about the game last night, but also your thoughts overall on the Blues season. Are you happy? Are you upset with the way that things finished out? And I just want to mention one more thing about how crazy the NHL playoffs were this entire weekend. So 2-goal comebacks in the third period to win Game 7 in NHL history. First 160 years, just 3. Last 2 days, 2. So if you're able to see that Avs and Stars series, that was nuts. Whatever. I mean, that was just incredible to see.
Just taking over.
I know. Mikko Rantanen was just insane in that game. And then, of course, you saw what happened with the Blues and Jets last night.
You have a 2-goal lead with 1:05 to go.
Shows you that the 2-goal lead is not the safest.
It's the most dangerous lead in hockey, as they say. Okay, so I just want to run down this group of players because as players get older, they seem to be less durable and less effective. That's been my experience. Are you bringing Ryan Suter back at the age of 41?
Probably not.
I think I am.
You think you are?
Yeah. Now, they have
What does
Tucker,
that contract look like? Because I'm not familiar with it off the top of my head.
Yeah, he's a free agent, so he probably won't make a whole lot more.
So you're bringing him back for the veteran presence for some of these younger guys?
Yeah, and he was good.
The conversation immediately kind of people were talking about him potentially because of the strong season, playing all 82 games. People think he might be able to get 2.5, 3 on a single year contract, and they don't know if the Blues are going to be able to meet that, or should the Blues go that deep.
He had said that he wanted to come back here at the same price because he likes Shen and he wants to move his family to St. Louis. So he had talked about that. Now maybe his mind has changed. I don't know, but if his mind, he's only played in the Central Division. Maybe he wants to expand his horizons. He's played with Nashville. He's played with Minnie. He's played with Dallas. He's played with the Blues. Maybe he wants to go to the Eastern.
I was worried, and I remember we were still on the radio whenever he came over. Yes, we were on radio, by the way.
At one point,
I know that's shocking, but I remember when he was coming over, you heard those rumors of him not being a great guy in the locker room. And so it felt like this was maybe also an opportunity for him to rebrand his image. And he probably likes that too.
So if he's a guy that if he comes to Army or Steiner today and says, guys, I want to come back, I bring him back.
I could see Steiner doing that.
Okay. So Nick Leddy is 34. He's probably going to be here. You probably don't move that contract. Fowler has to be here. He's 33. Falk, if you have a taker for Falk's whole contract, do you do that?
Probably. I see some people. I see some people who are ready to move on from Justin Falk. I already saw it on the chat a little bit earlier that people are ready to move on from Justin Falk.
Parayko is going to be here.
Yes.
Tucker is going to be here. I don't know what they feel, but not that it matters with Kessel because he's only 24. And then Broberg, obviously, at 23, he's our youngest defenseman.
Yeah.
So if you come back next year, Suter, Leddy, Fowler, Parayko, Tucker, Broberg, and then you add in a Kessel or bring in you'd have to bring in somebody else. I don't know if there's going to be, even with the cap going up, a dramatically strong market for a guy like Falk anyway. And by the way, I think if you were ever going to move him, I thought this was Justin Falk's best Blues season. I think his value probably is higher now as a member of the Blues than it's ever been.
And you might have to capitalize on that. And it seemed like last season he was dealing with some injuries. So that's something you have to look at. Eli says Faxa stays, trade Sonny.
I don't.
You have to think too. Joel Hofer, he's due for a pay upgrade this offseason, correct?
He will. Yeah, but the cap is going up a lot.
Yeah.
So JR Blues said I'm depressed now. Eli, as you said, Faxa stays, trade Sonny. Again, Anthony C. Outside of 2019, this is par for the course for the Blues playoff history. There are no guarantees for next year. The Blues could miss out on the playoffs again. Yes, but we are sunshine lollipops here. Sure, they could miss out on the playoffs again. But the likelihood of that is not high. What do we, Matthew? What do you got?
We're not sunshine and lollipops. I don't know what you're talking about. The show, the build for the show is clearly telling people this is not sunshines and lollipop. There's only darkness. Happiness is an illusion. Sports aren't even fun anyway. I don't know.
Sports aren't even fun.
I'm more of a bowling guy.
I don't know about you. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I was prepared. I was ready to talk about May the 4th. I mean, I don't.
May the 4th be with you.
As soon as the game ended, I was like, okay, I guess we're done with sports for a couple months.
Yeah.
Talk to you guys in August.
There's not baseball going on or anything like that.
It's not like the Cardinals won or anything.
Which we will get to that at a certain point. But this is Blues. This is Blues conversation.
Based on the chat,
now.
I don't think it's going to be 11 o'clock when we get to that.
Eric Cleveland says Booch had a couple of brain dead plays there at the end.
Yeah, and he also had some really good moments. He was overall, I think you look at a 20-goal season for Pavel Buchnevich, and I think you say disappointment, but he also, I think after Four Nations, he got a lot better. I think that he had probably kind of spiraled. He's one of those guys among several who kind of spiraled under Bannister. I don't think Bannister knew how to coach Buchnevich. I think Montgomery does. And I think we'll see an even better Buchnevich next year. One of the things that I believe, and you can join the chat here, I can't think of a Blues player that played better under Drew Bannister than they did under Jim Montgomery. I think he made every single player on this team better. And obviously as a unit, they were way better. I can't think of a single guy who played better under Bannister.
Shouldn't we give Drew Bannister credit for getting fired? Yeah. I feel bad for him.
Give the Bruins credit here.
Yeah, it was not the perfect situation for him. Like he came in, he tried. I remember when he spoke before the season, he said that he even took the time to go over to guys' houses and make sure he could talk to him before the season started. It was just the wrong time.
Yes,
for
it
him.
Was.
It was the wrong time. And hopefully one day he can get back in the league. But you're right. Jim Montgomery, that was the huge difference maker this season. And I think just kind of counterpoint to what somebody was saying earlier about the Blues and the playoffs and how this is how things are going to go for them. I think the counter argument to that, to your point of what you're saying, is that these players got better under Jim Montgomery. What would stop that for the seasons coming forward? And don't you feel better about how they're going to compete in the division compared to how it was before under Drew Bannister?
And Jordan Kyrou is kind of an old head on this team. He's 27 today. Happy birthday, Jordan. Thanks for watching. But Robert Thomas, even though he's played 7 years in the league, is still a super young guy.
Is he 25 or 26?
26.
Is he 26?
Jimmy Suggerud is going to get better. Neighbors is going to get better.
He's about to be 26.
Okay. Defensively, Broberg is going to get better. Holloway is going to get better. You have a large group of players here and this doesn't even include a guy like Dvorsky, who I think are prepared to ascend. I'm really impressed by the way Doug Armstrong, and he's done it multiple times now, he's able to change the nucleus of the team without the team ever touching rock bottom.
Theo Lindstein, I think, is another name to be watching for here down the stretch, and he was impressive. But I think this is a good question. High Revolution says, are the Blues in the Stanley Cup window now?
Bless you.
Oh, excuse me.
I think they are. I think that with Binnington at 31, bless you. We got sneeze galore here in the room. Binnington at 31, Karraker at 31. What did you take out of? Did you watch the Shen interview with JK? And what did you take out of that? Do you think Shen is a certainty to be back?
I think so. I think it was just the emotions. I think it was just the did you feel like he just thought that he would be done?
I just wondered if he's thinking about the end of the line. I can't imagine. He's got 3 years left on the contract. I can't imagine that he wouldn't be back. But my point being, he's 33. So you've got some guys that are in their prime still, or maybe headed towards the back nine. But then you have that young, energetic group. I really like this team a lot. I think they have a great mix. Hofer is a big part of that. I think this is a team that's absolutely in the Stanley Cup window now.
I think so too. And you have that speed too that you need now in the league. And that's a big factor. And the way that Doug Armstrong has built that, you have Holloway too, who will be returning. And I think that's huge for him after we see what he's capable of this season. I only see better things ahead from him. Jimmy Snuggerud will take another huge step forward. The fact that Jimmy Snuggerud was able to step into that role this season where he came in fresh out of college hockey, and of course he's playing for a great college hockey team, but he was able to adjust so quickly. That first game, a little shaky. We heard even Jamal Mayers mention that. But the way that he was able to progress every single game to where he could handle a top 6 role in a playoff series against the President's Trophy winners is really encouraging for his future.
I think so. And he might have been the best Blues player last night. He was all over the place.
He was.
And he's got a surprising 200-foot game, which normally when you have a young player, they've got to kind of figure that out. I believe that he's pretty close to that. So there's a lot of things. And let's not forget that in the World Juniors, the Blues had more players in the World Juniors and playing at a high level than any other country. So, or any other franchise. So I think that the future is bright for this organization.
I want to go back to the Buchnevich comment because I know that there is a lot of frustration with Pavel Buchnevich that happened there, but he wasn't the only one at the end where you had some empty net opportunities that were just missed. And of course, had Buchnevich not iced the puck and skated out and possibly scored in that empty netter, it could be a different conversation today where we were able to end it. I pointed to that Ehlers goal as when you knew that maybe this is not going to go the Blues way, but those missed empty netters, was that another moment for you? Because it was for me personally where I was like, if you can't just get these little empty netters.
And I think that's one of the things with the team. They have to get the puck and score empty netters. I always go back to something that Joe Torre told me when he was the Cardinal manager pretty much every day. And I never forget this. It's hard to play. This is not easy. If it was easy, all of us could do it. Yeah,
I think the emotions
we look at it, we say, "Oh man, he should have had that," but it's hard.
Yeah,
and I think that we need to appreciate that these guys are going 20 miles an hour on skates. The game is happening super fast, and even the best players in the world, at times, they make it look easy a lot, but at times they make mistakes too. And I don't think that Buchnevich is by any stretch one of the best players in the world. He's a really good player, super gifted, but he's not one of the best players in the world. And I think that I expected more than this year. I expected more than 20. I expect him to be a 30-goal guy. And I think that he'll bounce back to that next year. But I don't think that Pavel Buchnevich is one of the best players in the league. One of the most gifted players in the league, yes. One of the best players in the league, no.
Highly skilled,
yeah. But it's the bottom line is, even for him, it's hard.
It is. Yeah. It was just frustrating where you had those moments. And even throughout the game too, when you built up a 3-1 lead, I felt like I could breathe a little bit easier, which I know that you can't do that in any moment, especially in a game 7. But I felt a little bit easier because I was like, great, you're in Hellebuck's head once again. But then you saw Hellebuck after those empty netters, those missed empty netters too, where you could see him even regain his confidence. It felt like it gave him more time to get back in the headspace that he needed.
And there were a couple of opportunities there in the second where if you could have made it 4-1, then you would have taken the crowd completely out of it. But once they got some opportunities, and they were enjoying cheering for Jordan Binnington, the fans were, but once they got some opportunities, the crowd got back into it too.
They got back into it because you were able to take the breath out of that building when it was 3-1, and they got right back on their feet. I'm on your front street says biggest problem all year was the inability to play a full 60 minutes, and it was the Achilles heel last night. Is that being a young team?
I think that's part of it. Absolutely. Yeah. And just making mistakes. See, that's the kind of thing where if you pair up Karraker and Cam Fowler, those are two guys that should theoretically, at their age and their experience, they should be able to keep the puck out of the net, even if the other team has a 6th attacker. But we weren't able to do it. And you get the deflections. That's one thing about last night is Binnington. He had the deflection on the winner, right? Yeah. And then a deflection on the tire. So Binnington had a pretty good night, but when the puck is going off our guys and into the net,
and sometimes it's those funky, goofy goals that works out for you,
especially in overtime.
And sometimes that's why you have to just shoot we make fun of it, but the shoot the puck. Yeah, you have to do that because eventually puck luck will work out in your favor there.
Right. David Abrams, Krug is more likely to never play again. That's been the latest word. I'm not. Krug will be gone, not a Blue next year. Yeah, I think Krug is Probably going to spend the rest of his career on LTIR. That's the way it looks. Back to the D-man conversation. What about Krug? I don't think that his ankle is a mess. And
It is.
He will not be back.
Is there anybody in the league that you've seen come back from? Well, his age is a factor too.
Yeah. I think that this is a pretty unprecedented, kind of like a fusion of the ankle. I don't know if he can even bend it anymore.
No, I think that kind of tells you about what's going to happen with his career. Ellipsis 150 says Bennington. Oops, it just disappeared on me. Sometimes that happens on us. Oh no, where'd it go? Bennington faced 47 shots. Hellebuck faced 29. Benner is the only reason we didn't lose by 7. He absolutely stood on his head.
He was great.
He was.
Yeah, I don't know if they would have lost by 7 because Hofer is pretty good, but I see where you're coming from.
Bennington deserves a lot of credit. Can you imagine? I was thinking about this last night when they were up 3-1. I was getting a little cocky in my head. I was thinking about how the Canadian media would absolutely turn on Jordan Bennington if it was him who was doing what Hellebuck has done through the series, where he's been pulled 3 times in a series, a playoff series, Vezina Trophy finalist once again. Could you imagine if it was roles were reversed and it was Jordan Bennington in that situation? They would be they would be calling 2019 a fluke, which they have been, but it would finally validate those stories that they were trying to put out there or those thoughts they had about Jordan Bennington, the way that they would turn on him so quickly.
And it's amazing, Brooke, because he's Canadian and Hellebuck is from Michigan.
I know, but it's just I feel like they just love to hate Jordan Bennington. He's a player that you love to hate, and people have always it feels like since 2019 have tried to invalidate how good Jordan Bennington is. But we've seen it during the playoffs and during the regular season, but most importantly during the playoffs, Jordan Bennington is a different animal. And there's not many players like that out in the world who can just turn it on to a different level when it comes to postseason.
He is a big game player.
Yeah.
And not that he's not a really good goalie during the regular season, but he's highly competitive. And he is a guy that commands the respect of his teammates. And Monty talked about it during the series, how he kind of sets the tone with his swagger back there between the pipes, and the Blues feed off of that. And it's weird for a goalie to be a leader of a team, but I think Bennington is a big-time leader of this team.
I think he is. Of course, Braden Shin is another great leader, but I think Bennington, his demeanor out there really determines things too. Eli says, this is good therapy. You're right. This is a therapy session. Tell us how you feel. Are you happy? Are you sad? What is the feelings? Ellipsis 150. A lot of people angry at Pavel Buchnevich here. Ellipsis 150 says, if Buchnevich held onto that puck for 1 second longer instead of icing the puck, we win the game. And then Barb says, an old school hockey coach would have had a heart attack when Buch went for that empty net.
And Austin Shiflett, I 1000% blame Pavel Buchnevich. Well, again, I watch and I say, okay, what level of player would make that mistake? What level of player wouldn't? And again, I think the game is happening fast, and sure, you can blame Buchnevich, but there were a lot of things that went into that final minute and 5 that he didn't have anything to do with.
He was not the only one in that situation. We were talking about, I was trying to remember if it was in the first overtime or if it was the second, where Robert Thomas had a great look like right at Hellebuck and instead looked to Jordan Kyrou, which is something that we've seen throughout Robert Thomas's career, of where instead of maybe he has the direct shot and he should just go for it, instead he looks for somebody else because he's great. He's great at assisting players, but sometimes he has that opportunity too where he can just shoot the puck. He has the best look right there in that moment.
And I think it'll be interesting to find out what Kyrou, was ailing him after the hit by Stanley. In the first game.
Well, I think that he was never the same after that Stanley hit. I've already seen some people in the chat too saying like Kyrou definitely should have stepped up more during the series. I hate to do it because we're just speculating. We don't know fully what he's dealing with. We won't know until after the season. And sometimes we don't ever know what all these players are recovering from. But he just never looked the same to me after that Stanley hit. And even the game last night, he had some good looks at the end there. I thought that Hellebuck made some incredible saves against Jordan Kyrou there.
And I thought it was a really interesting note that John Kelly had last night that Monty told the broadcasters that during the series in the first 6 games that Kyrou had more 5-on-5 chances than any other Blue. So he's a guy that scored 36 goals for you. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think that he was probably hurt more than we would as fans be willing to admit, that he was, and we'll probably find that out when they have their end of season press conference tomorrow.
Samuel House says, Kyrie scored that important early goal. Where was Thomas at? Needed more shots.
Yeah, and early on, they outshoot him 7-3 in the first. I thought that was the most glaring aspect of last night, was the way that Winnipeg was able just to pretty much take control, and so much offensive zone possession time from the end of the first period on.
They were, and it's a lot about puck luck, right? And you had those weird deflections there at the end, but sometimes if you're just putting it towards the net, as simple as it sounds, then good things could happen. And that's what happened for the Jets in that situation, is that they were just pressing, and Jordan Binnington made some great saves too. I'm glad that nobody in the chat is blaming Jordan Binnington. Every once in a while you see things like that, and I'm like, it was not Jordan Binnington in that situation last night. I had a tweet that I shared with you, and I got another one that I was kind of surprised about. I don't know if this person is completely trolling, but I just simply tweeted out after the game last night, heartbreaking ending to the game, but what an incredible season for the Blues, because once again, I had zero expectations, and the fact they went toe-to-toe with the President's Trophy winners, I think says a lot about the future of this team. And somebody replied, incredible season? How is that? This isn't T-ball. When you're up 2 goals with 2 minutes left, you can't lose, and then when you're up 1 goal with 2 seconds left, you can't lose. The coach must be fired. Why does he tell his players to not shoot the puck at the empty goal? They did try to shoot the puck at the empty goal, and that's kind of what hurt Buchnevich there at the end.
That's amazing.
So we'll turn into that. Should they fire Jim Montgomery?
It's pretty funny. So let's see. We have 32 teams in the NHL, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's 32 times 22? Anybody got the...
oh, God. Please don't ask me math.
No math?
Questions.
No math allowed?
No.
Well,
there's a reason.
32 times 22. 704. 704 skaters in the National Hockey League. Okay. 15 of those skaters had more goals this season. 15 out of 704 had more goals than Jordan Kyrou. John Lattis says, if Kairou's not hurt, then he has to go. I would like to know, John, and maybe you can help us out here. Who scores those 36 goals if you get rid of Jordan Kyrou?
That's a good question. And you need more than just Jordan Kyrou, of course. Right. But Jordan Kyrou has shown time and time again that he has that potential to do that.
3 years in a row with 30 plus. He's your leading goal scorer.
Yeah, so I would just rid of him.
And John Lattis says, who cares? Well, if you care about the team, then you care.
Yeah, I don't think you can get rid of Jordan Kyrou.
No,
we're not starting this again, are we?
I think we just did. John Lattis did.
We can't do this again. We're not running Jordan Kyrou out of town again. Didn't you see him? He cried last time. We can't do this to Jordan Kyrou. No, there's no reason to do that.
So Snuggie, Holloway, and Bolduc, Randy. So they are the ones that score the 36 goals. Okay, good. Who's going to? So
have you seen this division? You need a lot. You need a Jordan Kyrou on your team, and he's made progress every single year. I felt like this is the season that we saw Jordan Kyrou mature more as a player on the ice.
Well, he did lead the Blues in plus minus, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check here.
He played a more responsible game.
Yeah, he played a 200-foot game.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes people expect him to be Malkin or Austin Matthews. And again, that's not what he is. That's not who he is. He's a really, really good player. And I think that if you, for some reason, are intrigued by the idea of getting rid of him, then you better get somebody who's really good to replace him. Kyrou, plus 23, led the team. Holloway was second with a plus 21. Broberg, plus 20. Just look at the other forwards. Robert Thomas was a plus 20. Bolduc was a plus 20. So, but Kyrou led the way at plus 23 and led the team with 36 goals. So I think you, as fans, you kind of better be careful of what you wish for when you say, yeah, let's get rid of Jordan Kyrou. I think that's a really good idea.
Eric says, what has Kyrou done in the playoffs? He's a great regular season player. During the playoffs, first of all, he scored the first goal last night. So that was very important. But also, to the point of the playoffs specifically, they had a 2-year playoff drought leading into this. So there was not a playoffs for him to perform in where we could measure it. This is a smaller sample size for Jordan Kyrou. Plus, we don't know. And we were speculating earlier. You can't tell me after that Stanley hit. that he was not the same player on the ice. So can you fully judge him in this series where he wasn't 100% healthy from what we looked at after that hit with Stanley? I mean, Scheifele didn't come back after that Braden Shen hit, and there was a lot of similarities with how brutal both of those hits were, in my opinion, right? When you saw them, you could tell that Jordan Kyrou was a little, shocked by that hit. Same thing with Scheifele, and then, of course, he got hit again by Faxa. The fact that Kyrou stayed in this series, I think, says a lot about who he is as a person and a player out there. I don't think he was 100% after that Stanley hit.
I don't either. And I will go there. What has he done in the playoffs since he became a regular with the Blues? 21-22, 12 games, 7 goals, 2 assists, led the team in goals in the 22 playoffs, led the team with 7 goals in a dozen games. And then, of course, this year, 3 goals in 7 games in the playoffs. And if I'm not that mistaken, that led the Blues. Right. Yeah. During these playoffs. So it was the best they had. That's what he's done in the playoffs.
Yeah. Wow. We're getting a lot of Kyrou comments now.
Yeah.
So yes.
Can I call a little audible on the show for a moment?
Sure. Go ahead.
To my right, stand up, please. Wilson.
What is this?
Off screen right now, camera, our Wilson, our producer, is wearing a Jets jersey. What in God's name is going on in this studio?
Yeah.
Is it Blake Wheeler? Yeah. Okay. Yep. What the hell's going on right now?
Just another Jets fan that doesn't know the rules.
Did you just walk in with this? Like,
yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
And you were just going to let this go.
Randy,
just unmentioned.
I
didn't even see him do that. I was trying to navigate these Kyrou comments.
It's a clean shirt. But I'm just trying to imagine June 1996. Someone walks into the studio in a Red Wings jersey. Just June 1996. Somebody walks into the studio, Randy Karraker's in that day, in a Red Wings Yzerman jersey. How are you handling
I hated that team. That's different. I don't care about the Jets. The Jets are a non-factor. They're never going to win a Stanley Cup.
Okay.
Their fans are not going to come here and try to take over our Okay, so this is an interesting one, and I'd like to know who said this on ESPN. I wonder if it was a real hockey person or if it was one of the people that does SportsCenter that say Cairo. But Doobie Doo said ESPN commented that this loss could cripple the franchise for years.
Who said that?
If you can tell us,
please tell us who
on ESPN said that. I would like to know.
Please.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair though, I wouldn't be shocked because
the game wasn't on ESPN, so it had to be an ESPN SportsCenter.
And maybe they said it on social media because you've seen that too.
Yeah, tell us who said that. Who's gonna this will cripple the franchise for years.
How will this cripple the franchise for years? That is disgusting. But it shows you when we were talking about Jordan Binnington and how the conversation would have shifted if he would have been pulled 3 times in a playoff series in the first round. They would have been all over him. But the way that they've talked about the Blues this entire series has been so disappointing to me, especially hockey analysts, people who are getting paid to talk about this. They've talked about the Blues like they are this lowly, terrible team, bottom feeders that are just nagging these great Jets, and they're causing all these problems. You would have thought that Braden Shen should have been arrested by the way that media was talking about him, especially Canadian media. You would have thought that Braden Shen would have come out there with like a knife and like stabbed him to death, and that he should be arrested. The way that they talked about Braden Shen was insane. I just think it's absolutely. I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever. Would you, if somebody would say something so silly like that about the Blues?
No, there's. I would not be surprised. No. Let's see. We still haven't. Yeah.
Was it TMA? I don't know. This could be Ben said. ESPN hasn't had the best takes lately. Look at Mel Kiper. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Whew. That man's been having a meltdown, huh?
Yeah.
I still think about that every once. This could be Ben said TNT TBS was all about Winnipeg. Yes, 100%. Well, no one in Canada was watching TBS TNT. They couldn't be biased towards the American team playing. It just felt like in general, though, that there were so many people who were just wanting the Jets to absolutely pummel the Blues, and they were perplexed as to how the Blues were even doing this, where they would push it to a Game 7. How did you not know how good the Blues were after 4 Nations? Jim Montgomery coming
I
in
think
to
Biz
be
Nasty
the.
did. I think Biz Nasty was.
I think he gave a
rational.
lot of. Yeah, I think he gave a lot of credit. But it felt like outside of that, there were so many people who were confused how the Blues were even doing
Yeah.
this.
Well, and I think last year Rick Bowness was their head coach.
Mm-hmm.
So that's understandable. He's got an emotional tie after coaching that team for a couple of years. And Arneal, this was his first year he took over for Rick Bowness. So
Who is this
I
Anthony
get that.
C? Who is this infiltrating our chat right now?
What's he
Anthony
saying?
C says, for being a one cup wonder, Blues fans are very arrogant.
We are. Yep. Because we go to the playoffs pretty much every year. We've been in existence for 59 years. And I think we've made the playoffs 50 times out of 59. We're pretty good. So who are you? You better not be a Red Wings fan.
Because Randy will punch you.
Yeah.
That's well, you kind of gave into that because you felt sorry for them more than anything.
I did. Yeah.
It just didn't feel like a fair fight, like a sucker punch, didn't it?
Right. They were fine before there was a salary cap.
That just really put a damper on things.
Yeah,
it really did.
Hey,
Boo
Brooke,
that man. Yes. Boo.
You know who we're going to welcome back to our show?
Who?
The Fenton Bar and Grill. You need to know about Fenton Bar and Grill on Rudder Road in Fenton, serving the most dazzling, delicious trashed wings you'll ever try.
Photo.
And we have breaking news, Brooke.
Yes.
Fenton Bar and Grill is running its first ever trashed tasting special. 10 trashed wings for $10 Mondays from 5 to 9. That's today from 5 to 9 p.m. Dine in and you can get 10 trashed wings for $10. Try them out. They're delicious. Plus enjoy ice cold domestic bottles of beer for $2 and you can try out all of their cool things. Find out what the hype is about with the trashed wings at Fenton Bar and Grill, the place to go for wings, luscious burgers, amazing salads. There you see the amazing toasted rav as well. Tasty wraps, and the servers treat you like you're special because you are. Every time you're there at the Fenton Bar and Grill, you're going to be treated extremely well. Whether it's to watch a game, hang out after golf, maybe have a great business lunch, happy hour, dinner, any occasion, stop by the incredible Fenton Bar and Grill. Music every Friday and Saturday night. Say hi to the 2024 Maitre d' of the Year, Chuck. You'll have a great time. It's the dive with a vibe. It's the Fenton Bar and Grill. Tell them Randy sent you.
Oh, it looks delicious.
It's unbelievable.
It looks amazing.
It's a
And we
great
love our
place.
friends over at Fenton Bar and Grill. Is the feisty redhead still there? That's what I need to know.
No, we missed the feisty redhead.
She's not there anymore?
No, but we've got a great crew though.
What?
So led by
What
Megan.
happened?
Well-
Well, now you have to find another fight. There has to be at least one feisty redhead.
They definitely have a feisty redhead over at the Fenton Bar and Grill. We will.
We'll find one eventually.
We'll find Brooks
You
feisty
you
redhead.
need at least one. So
Yep.
one Mizzou fan says this is a bad loss, but as a hard Mizzou fan, I'm kind of used to this. Can you even compare the
Yeah, that
Mizzou
was,
and Blues fandom?
That was essentially Tyus Edney.
So okay,
It was
so
essentially Tyus Edney.
so here's my guy, Patrick Risch. We all know Patrick Risch from WashU, right? Runs the sports business area over at Patrick Risch. So Patrick texts Frank Cusimano and I this morning. He says, as two guys that have spent their whole careers following St. Louis sports, was there ever another loss of another St. Louis sports team that hurt as much as yesterday's game? I am completely gutted. I came back immediately. Super Bowl 36, Game 7 versus Detroit in 1996, Game 6 of the 1985 World Series, Game 7 after the Monday Night Miracle, Hakeem's fumbled punt, football Cardinal lost to the Rams in the 1975 playoffs, lost to Colorado into the 2001 playoffs. Pronger said that was his Blues team that had the best chance to win. Nothing compares, I said, to Super Bowl 36. Tyus Edney, Game 4, Mizzou. Patrick says, lots of good ones here. Helps give me some perspective.
Ooh, you know what one didn't get in there?
What?
The one that you made your own souvenir for.
What's that?
When you created the Jason Sehorn souvenir.
Oh, yeah, double overtime against the Panthers. Yeah. Ooh, Jason Sehorn. Man, Steve Smith. Yeah, we've had some rough ones here in St. Louis. Yeah, that was.
Do you think that this even ranks as one of the most disappointing?
I don't think it's in the top 10.
I don't think so. I really.
This team wasn't going to win any Stanley Cups. Every one of those teams that I just mentioned had a better chance to win the championship than
But what about
the 25 Blues.
the circumstances of being up in the third period and having it ripped away with 1.9 seconds left, the latest ever game tying goal in a game 7 in NHL playoff.
Yeah,
history.
it makes it a bad game. I mean, the loss itself is disappointing, but I'm not. I would have said on this show, if the Blues would have won last night rather than lost in double overtime, I would have said I think they're going to get swept by the Dallas Stars.
Okay, the only reason I
'Cause
brought
the
it up is that
Dallas Stars are
it's a
insane.
very stark difference than, let's just say, the one I just brought up, which is the loss to the Panthers. Rams come back late, and there's a lot of sketchy kind of call.
Panthers wind up in the Super Bowl too.
And yeah, that
Yep.
there's that point too. So I just like
Yep. And that one-
different situation.
And the other one, as opposed to having the other team score on you, Brooke, this game 2003, Rams have the ball down like at the 17-yard line. I think it's second down. I can go back and find it. And Mike Martz sits on the ball with a minute to go, lets the clock run, calls a timeout to send the game into overtime. Then they lose in double overtime. He kicks a field goal rather than try to win it. And as it turns out, he didn't trust Mark Bulger to not throw an interception, or he thought he was going to.
I think that it's disappointing this season, if you're talking about just specifically in the playoffs in this first round, because I thought that they were better than the Jets at a lot of points during this series.
Yeah.
And especially last night too in game 7, the fact they were able to push it to game 7, I thought that they were the better team, but the way that things just fell off towards the end was really disappointing to see. And to the point of what somebody said earlier, this team has really struggled to close out games. We saw that towards the end.
Great point.
Even before that 12-game win streak, we saw that towards the end of the season. It was something that was just bothering them. But I think that has a lot more to do with some of the younger guys, and you have to learn. So that's why I'm not completely disappointed with how everything played out. And maybe this is just me, because I wasn't expecting anything going into this season. And so everything was a great surprise after that. But at the same time, I just think that I see more positive momentum forward, and that's what I'm looking at with these younger players. You have Jim Montgomery here, which we've been waiting for that. I felt like for the past few years, even with Craig Berube, love Craig Berube, you always knew in the back of your mind that they were waiting for that perfect moment where they could bring in Jim Montgomery, that was the guy that they wanted. You finally were able to accomplish that. You have Jimmy Snuggerud coming up. Theo Lindsteen is another young player that I'm excited to see if he can take steps forward going into next season. And there's all these young players that are coming up, and they got some of this experience too. For Jimmy Snuggerud to get that experience during the playoffs is going to be huge for them.
Yeah.
Now we have some people who are pushing back a little bit, Randy, with what you were saying. Number One Blues fan says, disagree, Randy. This team was hot just like 2019, and we were playing the President's Trophy winners. And I want to go back to the conversation with Doug Armstrong, because Doug Armstrong is really good at his job, as we know. And he knew in 2019 that that team was capable of winning a Stanley Cup. He knew that team was capable. He didn't have those expectations with this group. And I think it was more even a surprise to him of what they would be able to accomplish.
Yeah. I asked him late in the season during the 12-game winning streak, because I wanted to make that same comparison you just did to the 2019 team. And he said,
we've done that all year ever since,
right.
well, not all year, but after the Four Nations break when they were doing well.
Similarities were striking, right? New coach, bad record that you bounce back from, long winning streak, team that people didn't expect to rebound. But as he pointed out, Doug Armstrong, he said, we built that team when we went out and we got David Perron back and we traded for O'Reilly. And 21 Bozak, when we signed Tyler Bozak.
Bringing in
we had
Patrick
Petro.
Maroon.
Yeah, Maroon. We had Petro. We had Bo. We had a guy like Carl Gunnarsson who could be our seventh guy. That was a veteran team that was built to win the Stanley Cup.
And you had some surprises along the way, like a Robert Thomas
and Binnington.
And Binnington was a huge surprise.
Right. This team is built to be on an upward trajectory. This was not a team in 2025 that they had expectations to win the Stanley Cup. Even after the 12-game winning streak, they did not expect this team to win a Stanley Cup. They wanted them, and you'll recall Jim Montgomery said this when they clinched the playoff spot. He said, this experience is going to be great for our young players. But part of what you need to win a Stanley Cup is experience. And the Blues got experience here. They were hot, no doubt, but they didn't have and don't have right now today the experience to win a Stanley Cup up front or, mostly up front. But, you would like to get a little bit more. You'd like to have a healthy Tyler Tucker, get him a little bit more seasoning. But
Dylan Holloway.
These players got a lot of seasoning that you need before you do win a Stanley Cup.
And when we were talking and discussing that window, if we're in that window right now, yes, I believe you're in that window, that Stanley Cup window, and you're at the beginning of it.
Yeah, you are. You're right at the front end, and it's kind of like when the Blues lost with Schwartzy and Tarasenko in 2014. I would say that was probably about it. Then they go to the conference finals in 2016 and lose to San Jose. You're probably right in that area. You're probably starting a 5-year, 6-year window of being able to win a Stanley Cup here.
Samuel House says experience knows how to close out the game last night, Randy.
No doubt about it. You're 100% right. Experience makes a difference. Blues, number one Blues fans. Both Jets and Blues play heavier games than the Stars. I think whoever won this one goes to the Western Conference Finals. Man, if
Stars team is nasty.
If you watch Dallas against Colorado, they look pretty heavy to me.
Yeah, that was that Dallas Stars team. Yeah. I mean the Jets. I don't know.
They won the game without Jason Robertson.
Yeah,
their first or second best forward, and Miro Heiskanen, their best defenseman.
Mikko Rantanen was just on another level.
He was, and they put him back together with Rupe Hintz, and those guys in Game 6 both had 4-point periods against Colorado, and then Rantanen goes off for the hat trick and an assist in the third period against Colorado. I must not know anything about hockey if I don't think that the Dallas Stars are a heavy team. Man, if they aren't heavy, they play heavy.
They are. That is a really heavy team. And I think that was another encouraging thing to see during the series. I was concerned about the Blues and the Jets when it comes to that physicality, because every time we did see the Blues play the Jets during the regular season, that physicality I felt like was a huge difference to the Jets' advantage. But the Blues were able to go toe to toe. I give a lot of credit to that WTF line. I thought it was great that Montgomery kept running them out there, because they were your best line down the stretch there. And a guy like Nathan Walker is just so gritty. And he's not a big guy. No. He's not a big guy whatsoever.
30s, so I there's obviously a lot of tread left on the tires. He can still play, but all of a sudden he's a really important part of this team.
Exactly.
Which I would have never thought that he would become a key element, but I think as the Blues move forward, he is a key element. And by the way,
you need a good fourth line.
Yeah, and I would hope that the Blues will have interest in, and I would be surprised if they didn't have interest in Trent Frederick as a free agent, because Frederick brings a little bit more of that. He brings the grit, the toughness, the willingness to scuffle, and it has a little bit of scoring ability. And obviously, being a St. Louis kid helps too. But I would be surprised if the Blues wouldn't pursue Trent Frederick in free agency.
Steve Hampton says, when does Steiner become the official GM? This summer?
After next season, in 26.
Okay.
So,
but he's been working in tandem with Doug Armstrong.
Yeah, he's involved with everything.
Ellipsis 150. Are you ready for this one, Randy?
Yeah.
This entire time, though, Randy has been saying that he still believes that there isn't a team out there that can beat the Blues in a 7-game series. But now, what I said is saying this team was never going to win.
No, I said that I wouldn't. I think the Blues are capable of beating any team 4 out of 7. That's and I still believed that. Before the Colorado Dallas series, I thought that was the case. Capable of different than what's he said. I didn't think that there was anybody that could beat them 4 out of 7. I said I thought the Blues were capable of winning 4 out of 7.
That there isn't a team out there that can beat the Blues in a 7.
Yeah, never said that. Never came out of my mouth.
I honestly thought your response to him was going to be, no, you did say that the Stars are going to win in 4 or 5 games.
Yeah. No, I thought at the beginning of the playoffs, and as I look around, if Colorado would have won the other night, I think that Wedgwood is vulnerable. I think that Colorado was vulnerable to the Blues. Dallas is playing on a different level now. Ottinger is playing great, and they did it without 2 of their best players. But I think the Blues, when this playoff started, I looked at the other 15 teams, and that, by the way, we hadn't seen the Panthers with Matthew Tkachuk in a long time either. But I thought the Blues were capable of winning 4 out of 7. So let's get that straight. I didn't say that I didn't think that there was another team that could beat the Blues in 7 games.
There you go. The clarification's out there.
Because then I would have said the Blues are going to win the Stanley Cup. And I never said that either. Right? If I say
we were all hope. I mean, you want that to happen, of course.
But I wasn't going to say that.
I think that if anything, it's encouraging. And once again, maybe I'm going to sunshine and lollipops with this, that you were able to go toe to toe with the Jets. And you also took, think about the way that they got into Connor Hellebuck's head. Mm-hmm. I think that was another big story of this series, is that you were able to get to Connor Hellebuck in that way. A great goalie, even though he didn't show it at certain times. I wish he didn't show it at the very end there in Game 7, but
he was
still,
he was pretty darn good on their ice.
yeah,
He wasn't.
away from,
Yeah,
and
he had no chance here.
I don't know what that was, but still, it was great to see it. Maybe
That's why
the
you
fans
play-
were a huge factor in
That's
that.
why you play for home ice advantage, right? That's
Yeah.
why you try so hard. I like this line, by the way, from Bach Hogg. I cannot tell you what you said, only what I heard.
I love that.
In the world that pisses me off more than that.
Bub
that
says,
goes back to being a kid, and you'd say something, and like your friend would be like, "No, you said this," and be like, I know the words that came out of my mouth, and I will fight you right now.
Isn't that the way that things go
Yeah.
now, though?
Yeah,
Especially with
it is.
social media, is that people just interpret things in the
Yeah,
way that
it
they, perceive it
Yeah, which
rather
is-
than what was actually
that's
said.
the business we have chosen. Bubs asks, is Armstrong retiring or just moving on to other things? He's moving on to other things, and he might be one of those guys. I don't know. I have no inside knowledge of this, but he is a very vibrant guy who's younger than I am. I think he's 60, 59. And I wouldn't be surprised if ultimately, if Army took a couple of years off and then got the itch again.
Mhm.
You know, he's done this for a long time. You know, he was the GM in Dallas before he came here. So he's done this for what? He's been here since 09. So 16 years here. Is that right? 09, 19. Yeah, 16 years here. And then I think he was like 5 years in Dallas. So
He
that's
could
a long
be
time and it's a grind.
consultant for
Yeah.
teams. I mean, he
Yeah.
could do a lot of different
He
stuff.
can.
And he has been. Will he be in the future? And I know that because he said in the past where he has been the GM for Team Canada.
And I think he'll still do that. He'll be involved. And at the end of the day, he'll have a spot. He can do pretty much whatever he wants in the Blues organization too.
Can I just say too that I've always been so impressed with Doug Armstrong with the way that he handles the media interaction. Look, we're annoying. We're these pesky little bugs that are just around asking, like, what are you doing? Are you going to sign this person? Just asking dumb questions all the time. That's what we do as media members. And he handles the media session so well, and he's so honest. I don't think that I have actually encountered a GM in my career, which is definitely not as long as yours, Randy. So you have more of a say in this.
Long career.
But in my career, I have experienced a lot of GMs and I've seen a lot of GM firings and in my short career, and he is the most honest out of any GM that I have encountered. When you were talking about Walk Jocketty, and two very different people, of course, but when you talked about one of the things that you respect about Walk Jocketty is that he was never trying to just pull the wool over your eyes. He was
Right.
very honest. He would lead you in the right direction. Doug Armstrong, I felt like I have never been misled by what he said. And if something doesn't go right or he made a mistake, he will actually own up to it.
Yeah.
And he'll try to correct it.
And he's done a great job of endearing the fans that way.
Mhm.
Although I can tell you, in January of 2019, there were a lot of #Fire Armstrong
Oh yeah.
things on the interwebs.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
he's a guy. Go back to me trying to make the comp between this year and 2019. And he's honest enough to say, no, that I don't want to rain on your parade, but no, there isn't a comp here.
Yeah.
This team isn't like that team.
I remember people were ready to people being mad about him trading Jordan Elliott. Like that's like the
Right.
Brian Elliott, not Jordan, Jordan Elliott. Who the hell is Jordan Elliott? That was a defensive tackle from Mizzou, I believe.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
My bad. His name's running. When he traded Brian Elliott, got like a second round pick for him while he was in the middle of a goalie share for the most of his time here. And people were mad about that when people were ready to kick Armstrong at that point.
And who
It's
would you rather
insane.
have right now, Brian Elliott or Jordan Kyrou?
I'll go with the guy who's on the list of like 7 guys with multiple 30 seasons the last 3 years.
Yeah, there you go. I'm with you.
Seems pretty good.
Yeah. No doubt about it. He's Army has been, well, certainly the best GM in Blues history, right?
Mhm.
And our guy Ron Caron did a lot of great things, trading for Brett Hull and being involved with a lot of really cool stuff. But Army is, I think, Brooke, not only the best general manager in the NHL, but I think you could make an argument that dealing with the cap, dealing with the constraints of the market, and with the moves, if we look at the big picture, the moves that he's made, trading Yori Laterra, who is subsequently, by the way, charged with having cocaine sold out of his house and wherever he lived.
Oh,
Yeah.
can't do that.
The
can you?
Ryan O'Reilly trade, and there was actually somebody this season that said that they would want the Ryan O'Reilly trade back, even though the Blues won a
those are
Stanley
my
Cup.
favorite, where they just, the Tage Thompson, they think about that and they're like, I wouldn't have done. You brought in Ryan O'Reilly to win you a cup, and he won you a cup. You would
Yeah.
never
Never
take
take that
back
back,
that
no.
trade because we see how hard it is to win a cup.
Right.
What is this comment?
So I would say that Army is our Army is arguably the best general manager in sports right now.
Mhm.
I think you look at we don't know about Andrew Friedman. Andrew Friedman does a great job of evaluating and spending an outrageous amount of money.
Kind of helps when you can do that, right?
Maybe Brent Veach with the Chiefs.
If you just want to stick to NHL, then
NHL,
yes,
I don't think there's any
100.
question.
There's no competition whatsoever. This comments something. I don't know what goals allowed above expected was for Hellebuck, but around 12. Take those goals off the board and Jets regular power play earlier, and the series is not close. Can always, would have, could have, should have. I just added the should have because I wanted to.
The Canadian H ratio.
It totally is. Yeah, that's what I was going with. I like that.
Oh man. I love that. Yeah. I like that a lot. Number one Blues fan says the West is so tough. You have Dallas, Colorado, Vegas, Edmonton, St. Louis, and many, all the cap space next year. It could be any team, any year going forward. It is the heart. If anything with the NHL, NHL playoffs is so good for anybody who's just like a casual fan that's coming in. I think that if you were able to get them to watch this weekend, they become a super fan afterwards because it's such a crapshoot. I feel like that's the best way to describe it because all these teams, the way that the guys play, there's no doubt that it's the best playoffs in all of sports.
It's unbelievable. We were talking earlier. I don't know if we were on or off the air.
It's physical.
You have to tell yourself to breathe. I don't know about you guys, but like when things are happening on the ice, do you find yourself like
like you're imagining yourself on the ice?
Or whoa. It's kind of like you're on a roller coaster. I am definitely moving in my chair all night. There's no doubt that I am more
You're
emotionally,
on the edge of your seat the entire game.
Yeah, I'm more emotionally invested in this sports playoffs than any other sports playoffs, and it's not even close.
Yes, 100%. Because the way that these guys give 100% effort when they're nowhere near 100%, you can't doubt that. And I think that that's always going to build up fans. I think that always gets the fans engaged is when you see guys like that.
Yeah. One of our all-time favorites in terms of Doug Armstrong honesty. Here we go.
We need that killer instinct. We need to be able to, when you have a team down 2-0, you need to take the knife and jam it through their eye into their brain and kill them. We don't do that.
It's the best ever. Has any general manager ever had a better 12 seconds than that?
We need
on camera.
We need an Army-isms page, like how there's a Mike Shannon-isms. We need an Army-isms.
Oh, happy Cinco de Mayo.
Oh my gosh, yes. Mike Shannon's favorite.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Now he's going to pull up that sound, Rocky.
You got it, don't you?
I will. Eric Witzel with a audacious claim.
Army is the best GM in St. Louis history.
Here's the thing. Is he the best GM named Army?
Charlie Army.
That's what I'm saying. Is he the best St. Louis?
Yeah.
Is he even the best St. Louis GM
Charlie
named Army?
So Charlie Army, if you aren't aware of it, not only did he build the greatest show on turf, he was the architect. He also built the Patriots dynasty. I hate saying that, but the Patriot,
if we're just talking about St.
Patriots,
Louis history, though, where are you putting Doug Armstrong amongst the GMs that we've seen? Walt Jocketty, rest in peace.
Can I do
He's up there.
Can I do a Mount Rushmore?
I mean, Branch
Yes,
Rickey.
give us a Mount Rushmore.
Okay, it's Walt.
Okay, yes.
It's Branch Rickey. It's pretty good.
Yes, I would say so.
It's Charlie Army, and it's Doug Armstrong.
I think Armstrong deserves to be
And then
there,
Lutz.
considering that
Do
you
we
bring
get-
the first
is-
franchise, the first Stanley Cup in franchise history.
Oh, yeah.
What did
no
you
doubt.
just say?
Lutz.
Randy.
But I can't do
Randy,
that because
no.
did you see? And let me double check here.
No.
Oh, he
no,
doesn't.
no.
Matthew does. Matthew knows where I'm going here, don't you, Matthew?
That they got absolutely.
Well, they got boat raced.
They got rocked.
Yeah, but the other part of
destroyed.
this is that the with plus 11. Let me double check here, make sure. Oh no, in the East, second in the league, goal differential. Bradley Carnell's Philadelphia Union.
Yeah, not great.
Plus 11.
We don't have to talk about that.
Okay.
We're already talking about one disappointing loss, and City
Yeah.
SC has been very disappointing.
And
to
you
say
know
the
what?
least.
There's so much cool stuff going on. As a matter of fact, tonight, after the Cardinals take on the Pirates, we've got Cards Hub 365 right here on Sports Hub STL. You need to check it out. After every single Cardinal game, and every St. Louis City SC game and every Battlehawks game. I did Battlehawks the other night. It was fun. You will have a post-game show right here on Sports Hub STL. So tonight, Cards and Pirates, Mlodzuski against Michaelis. And then after the game, if you want to check in and react, you can do so on Cards Hub 365, brought to you by Gray Bar right here on Sports Hub STL.
Ooh, we got some controversy here in the
Ooh, like
chat with
controversy.
the Mount Rushmore GM. By the way, you can also weigh in too. Give us your St. Louis. Let's just make it St. Louis specific. St. Louis Mount Rushmore of GMs. And if you agree with Randy's or not, there's some people who disagree with you. Samuel Howe says Whitey Herzog was a GM.
Whitey Herzog was unbelievable as a general manager. Mozeliak has a better tenure as GM compared to Army. I wouldn't go there. They each have one championship. Mo has multiple pennants, right? He went to the World Series in 2013.
But Mo built one champion team.
Oh, that's always controversial
with
too.
what?
If he gets credit
In
for
11.
that or not.
I'm just saying, like 2006, Mo didn't build that team.
Oh no, and that Walt was still here.
That's what I'm saying. And so Mo built one championship,
But he
team.
built a pennant-winning team too that lost in the
I'm just
World
saying,
Series.
if we're talking about championships, they
Yeah.
each built one championship.
Right, yeah.
Team, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It's interesting because, and it's not apples to apples, but Army is they're both, I think, top 4 in wins since they took over. I would not put Mo, and this is an all-encompassing, I know perception is not a thing that we should use here, but I think Mo has kind of alienated a lot of people, and I think some of those people
Clearly.
include his managers. I think Army has done a great job. I don't think Army has had a bad relationship with any of the coaches that he's had.
That we're aware of.
Yeah, I think when we talk about the word collaboration, which is something that Mo has used a lot more than Army has, I think Mo has been better. Army has been better at collaborating and playing with others than
Some of
Mo
the other
has.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Philosophical differences. That's all that we have to say
Yeah,
there.
we can just throw that out there.
And it's tough because I think that's the part that we always battle with John Mozeliak, right? He does deserve a lot of credit for the things that he's done,
Mhm.
but then towards the end of
Mhm.
of his career, I think is what people might remember the most. Is that fair to
I
say?
think so. Yeah. Well, you remember the last thing you saw. Yeah. And
what are you doing for me right now? What have you done for me in the past?
Right.
Society. It's
And
a microwave society. And
it
it's
is,
to be
yeah.
fair, there has been some mistakes. We talked about some of the free agency mistakes. And now you have development, which I don't think that is even something I could even fairly put on John Mozeliak. If he was allowed to only spend in free agency, or if he could only spend, if that money was taken away to focus on development of this team, either way, we've seen the Cardinals regress from what we know them as.
Yeah.
And we've even heard all those stories come out from former players outside of when you mentioned
Mhm.
managers and the relationship, but even former players who have it's like people have been waiting for a way to knock on the Cardinals for a reason to finally kind of make them the butt of the joke.
Mhm.
And there's been things that have happened recently where it was easy to do that.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great point. All you have to do is watch that show Foul Territory, right?
They rip on the Cardinals
All
all
the
the time.
time,
They
yeah.
love making fun of how the Cardinals' way is gone.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do a couple of other of these Mount Rushmores.
Army. So Eric Witzel says Army brought the hardest championship to win in sports to SCL. I
Yep.
agree. I think
Yep.
the Stanley Cup is the hardest to win
Yep.
in all of sports.
Number 1 Blues fan. Armstrong is George Washington. That's a good call.
He has wooden teeth. Was that true, by the way, for George Washington?
No. It's
Was it
very
human
much-
teeth?
Yeah,
But not
and a
his.
very specific kind of human teeth,
Oh.
Brooke. Take a wild guess.
Oh.
What kind of humans they got the teeth from?
What kind? Dead ones?
Nope.
Oh,
Well,
ow.
eh,
Um,
eh.
Father
Okay.
of the nation, ladies and gentlemen.
So where do I plug Whitey in here? That's a great thing because Whitey was unbelievable as a general
You're doing a
manager.
fast lane for Mount Rushmore over here now?
Yeah, I want 5. Yeah,
You
I
can
want-
make your own rules. I mean, why not?
What I can do is I can use the old millennial. Well, Branch Rickey wasn't alive when I was, so I don't even know. Is that millennial or is that Gen X or Gen Z that I just
I
did
would
there?
argue
Can we do
millennials started
can we
doing
do
that.
Gen Z though? Let's make it Gen Z.
No, unfortunately, Brooke, I think we're gonna have to eat
So-
that one.
Hey,
What-
don't look at me,
Millennials
Wilson. You're
started
wearing a
doing that.
Jets jersey.
Do millennials call me boomer?
Yes.
Okay, so
Did you
millennials,
hear
it's on you.
Wilson? Did you?
Yeah,
Wilson?
yeah, right away. Yeah,
Gen
yes,
Z.
yeah.
But
It's
Gen
okay.
Z was the
So-
loudest.
So
okay.
yeah, he was.
You get that?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did, yeah.
I just want to
Yeah,
put
he
that out
was.
there.
So okay, so Whitey, Walt, Army, and Army. How's that? That good? Everybody good?
I
Since
think it's fine.
Brand Tricky doesn't come because he wasn't alive or he wasn't GMing when I was alive. I don't think.
Isn't that the way that things go?
Yeah, I don't know. What didn't happen when I was alive?
Greatest owners in St. Louis history.
Cole Bassett, Les Foot wants to see if Bing Devine deserves any love.
Bing did a good job, but Bing, I guess he did build a championship team. But I'm not going to put him up there in the top 4 because it's my top 4.
Yeah, it's yours. It's your Mount
Yeah.
Rushmore. You built
Yeah.
it. You know.
Dal Maxville, no, Maxie does not go. And all due respect, Maxie does not go on any Mount Rushmore of the best general managers in the history.
As
of St.
long as
Louis
you say
sports.
with all due respect, you can say
Thank
whatever you
I
want.
appreciate that, Brooke. Thank you.
Yes, it's a pass. It's a pass to be able to do that.
Yeah. So that's our group. We have veered off here, haven't we?
We have. It's 11:05. You were right, Rockio. We did not get into any.
Yeah.
Well, we did kind
I'm
of
telling you,
get
this-
into Cardinals
we-
territory.
Cool.
We
But-
needed
We'll get
it.
to Cardinals.
I mean, this is one of our most watched shows since we launched a few months ago
Mhm.
because people just
This
needed
is-
to get their thoughts
This is
out.
blues therapy. This is blues therapy.
Yes.
I always like to smell the
catharsis-
flowers and blow out the candles.
I called it the Catharsis Hour. I think that's what we should call 10 to 11 today. It was the Catharsis Hour. I think
Okay.
a lot of people got their thoughts out.
Good.
I
and I
think
thought it was pretty good.
to me, and maybe this is just me being two sunshine lollipops, encouraging moving forward for blues. That's my overall thoughts. And maybe I'm just not hard enough on them, and that we just need to fire Montgomery, like that person said on the
Now,
conference.
yeah.
You know,
I just couldn't
No.
believe.
that somebody said that. Me
No,
neither.
just the reaction that the Blues Hub postgame was getting yesterday because they came on and very rightfully there was consternation and emotion about the loss, but there was a lot of listen. We should be happy the Blues were here,
Yes.
but that sentiment in the moment garnered a lot of anger from the
I've seen
fans.
Yeah.
And if you see Chris Kerber put out his podcast and he's caught a lot of anger of fans who are like, I don't want to hear any talk about how good of a season this was. That was a pathetic loss. These players gave up. They like, it's that classic stuff when
Yeah,
fans
that's-
can't actually put in any real analysis and just want to be emotional. They lean on those things. And you saw it. People were saying you have to buy out Falk. You have to trade Karraker. I mean, there was
When
it
you,
was unbelievable the emotion that fans let
Yeah.
get to them. Go to sleep, wake up. It's gonna be rough, but don't say anything too stupid without doing at least like one Google.
As somebody who is not a big drinker, are those people effective at work today?
Probably not.
Okay.
No, I would
And see,
question that. I think
Samuel
we-
Howe comes in 1.6 seconds. Rocks. There's some people who aren't getting past that point and looking at the bigger picture, which shouldn't surprise me. Usually, my mic is
Yeah.
turning on to be mad at a listener who can't look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
because the expectations were just not there. I think that maybe sometimes, and this is a life lesson in general, just outside of sports, sometimes you have to go back to being a child. And when you were put into timeout, the reason you were put into timeout is because when you're a little child, you have zero emotional maturity yet, right? You're working on it, you're growing that, and you're learning because you are just a child. We need to go back to those younger days sometimes with certain people and realize that when you're younger, yeah, and maybe in these moments too, if you're not emotionally fully developed yet, you need to take a time out before you react, because sometimes your first emotion is not the thing that you need to react with. You need to take a second, clear your head, take a deep breath like you did when you were younger with the timeout, and then react later on instead of just going with that first emotion, which sometimes is not the most rational one.
Bobby Bowe. Imagine if Monty had a better defensive core to work with. Probably be a lot of changes made. A lot of modified trade clauses kick in this summer. Letty, Falk. Could happen.
Okay, so Parayko's a top 20 defenseman.
Mhm.
The defense was part of a 12-game win streak without that top 20 defenseman, and they were one of the top 5 defensive groups in terms of offensive
Mhm.
production.
And
So, listen, I'm not saying you can't improve, but just saying this is a bad defensive core and then held this team back, I just don't know if the facts
No.
support that argument.
they do not. And I will add that it has become abundantly clear when we talk about Doug Armstrong. He definitely prefers veteran defensemen to young defensemen.
Mhm.
I mean, you traded Joel Edmondson to get Justin Falk. You've traded Perunovic. You traded P.O. Joseph. Young defensemen here, for whatever reason, they brought in Broberg, but he had played in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals last year. Young defensemen here are not getting a ton of opportunity.
Booch just ice again.
Ellipsis
Jeez.
150. Next time she says 2 seconds isn't long enough, just remind her of Game 7.
Shame. That's all I have to say. Shame. No. Shame.
She's laughing.
No, I'm not.
Kinda laughing.
Shame. Shame. No. Don't do that. Don't say that. Why do I feel like somebody's going to make a t-shirt out of that?
Yeah.
Don't do that either. I'm giving you ideas. I'm sorry.
That's funny. That's a Sports Hub STL t-shirt if ever there
Number
was one.
one Blues fan. No, Fowler and Broberg have changed this defense.
Yeah, they have.
Yes, Cam
Yeah,
Fowler.
studs.
Wow. I mean, what a trade that was
How
by
good
Doug
is
Armstrong.
Broberg is just a
Yes.
really good player.
Those offer sheet moves that Doug Armstrong, and that's why I feel encouraged, because when you're thinking about next season and even this offseason, when they might move on from some guys, might make some changes, and if you're angry at the defense right now, the defensive core, I trust that Doug Armstrong is able to evaluate this talent so much, and Alexander Steen will be working with him too, that he's able to evaluate this group and what needs to go and what needs to stay, what needs to be added, subtracted, whatever it is. He continues to show that he has the ability to really analyze and figure out what works best for those players.
I feel great about the future of this organization.
I do too. Yes, because every single move that he's made here lately has worked out so well for them.
Yeah, he's today is not fine because they lost Game 7 and they had a great opportunity to win it, but they didn't. As Matthew would tell us, hey, the other team's on scholarship too. They were trying to win, and they succeeded. Did you know that the Sports Hub STL postgame shows are brought to you in part by Hot Shots, who invite you to come out to their St. Charles location on Sunday, June 1st to celebrate their 35th anniversary. The fun starts at noon with a parking lot party featuring the Budweiser Clydesdales. Prizes are going to be given away all day. There's a dart tournament at noon. You got cornhole coming up at 2, plus a chance to win Hot Shot tacos for a year when you enter the Hot Shots taco eating contest. Congratulations from us at Sports Hub STL to Hot Shots on 35 years. Hot Shots, St. Louis home for all the games, all the time since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com. Should we do the Grim Report?
Well, the Grim Report is just going to be touching on the Cardinals a little bit because we do need to give them some credit now. Yeah. Now it's back to baseball, which I know doesn't make everybody happy, but there were some positives to take out of that doubleheader sweep that we saw from the Cardinals yesterday.
Arenado didn't kill anybody.
Hey, and we need to show that video because I thought somebody died, and we wouldn't show this video if somebody died. But here's the video yesterday of Nolan Arenado, where if anything, my takeaway is Nolan Arenado will do whatever it takes to get an out. Here's the video of that.
High pop left side. Arenado gives chase. Still going, still going, still going. He makes a basket catch and tumbles into the netting. What a play by Arenado. Incredible grab.
And my takeaway, that's a team player. Okay. That's a guy who goes all out. He saw that he was definitely going towards kids, and he's like, look, either you get your kids out of the way or I'm getting this out. And he got that out. Luckily, the girls are okay. Those girls are tough.
Oh, man.
But the parents, why didn't they kind of...
So
why didn't they move them out of the way a little bit?
In our group text last night, we get this from Brooke. And obviously the Blues are playing. Just checked in on the Cardinals game, and did Nolan Arenado almost murder a child with his butt?
That's what it looked like.
And then I got the video. That is incredible. And first of all, kudos to Nolan Arenado for going all out. I mean, you're just ahead of the Pirates, and you're in fourth place in your division. But so
we appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate the hustle.
You put your butt on the line.
You did, and
your reputation, because you could have killed somebody.
So things happen in a hurry. You're holding a kid. I think who do you save first, yourself or the kid?
You save the kid.
You'd think. Yeah.
I don't want to parent shame because I'm about to be a parent soon. And I know it does happen quickly. But if I see somebody coming right towards me, like full speed, I think I'm moving out of the way.
I think so too. And I'm sure everybody's fine. Nolan gave him the ball. So everything worked out well. Okay, Michael McGreevy came on last night after
Yes.
Palante went 4 1/3, allowed 4 runs on 9 hits. And McGreevy went 5 2/3, 1 hit, scoreless innings. This is a conundrum for the Cardinals because they already have a 6-man rotation, but they have at least 7 starters, and McGreevy is one of their 5 best. So what do you do?
I don't think it's a conundrum. I think that Michael McGreevy needs to stay. And nothing against Andre Palante, but he is getting hit hard at this point. Do you move Palante, who has the experience in the bullpen?
You've got a bad
into the
bullpen.
You do have a bad bullpen. Mike McGreevy needs to be here. If we're talking about this youth movement and getting those guys runway, I know we're all tired of that word. I'm tired of hearing it at this point. Mike McGreevy is good. I think this is really encouraging too when you look at even his recent history. So including his 3 starts and 1 relief appearance last season, McGreevy is now 4-0 to start his major league career with a 1.57 ERA, allowing only 5 runs over 23 innings and 18 strikeouts. Michael McGreevy deserves a shot in the star rotation, and he deserves to stay.
Now, you give me those numbers. And here's the thing. Talking to Ollie Marmol about this when they brought McGreevy up on Saturday, and he said he has been such a pro about this. When we explained to him what we were doing, why we were doing it with Steven Matz here, that we just didn't have a spot. Ollie said he's been a total pro. And I have no doubt that Michael McGreevy has been a total pro. But once you start pitching to those numbers that you're talking about, how long is it before you start to get impatient and say, you know what? I should be making $760,000 a year as a major league minimum. I should be staying in Ritz-Carltons. I should be pitching in stadiums with third decks.
Private plane.
Yeah. At some point, you're going to say, you know what? I appreciate what they're dealing with, but I got myself to deal with too. And nobody loves me like I love me. And I think at some point, Michael McGreevy has to get frustrated. I don't know if he'll do anything, but I think I would be frustrated already if I weren't in the majors and I were him.
So when you talked to Ollie it was prior to Michael
Right.
McGreevy.
Yeah,
going
it was
out there.
Saturday before the rain.
So when you talked to Michael McGreevy, did he state what the plan is with Michael? Because it seemed like this was more of because of the doubleheader, and then they might send him back down. And that's just how I was interpreting this.
So actually on Saturday before the rain out, they brought him up just in case something went sideways with Fetty because they were worried about something happening there, and they didn't have enough in their bullpen to cover if someone went wrong with Eric Fetty. And then you keep him up yesterday, and what they expected to happen kind of happened, and they had to give him the opportunity to pitch out of the bullpen. And that's another part of this, Brooke, is he did pitch out of the bullpen. I don't think that I would put him in the bullpen if I were the Cardinals, but he can do it.
Yeah, he can do it. I don't want him to be in the bullpen, though. I think that he deserves a start, and he deserves to be in the starting rotation. I worry about, too, with some of the younger guys, too, of if you try to put them in a swingman role. I like what they did with Matthew Liberatore, where you said, okay, we're not going to take you out. We're not going to take this role away from you. I think defined roles is something that we've really harped on with the Cardinals over the years with young players. I need it to be a defined role for Michael McGreevy.
I'm with you 100%. And that defined role needs to be in the starting rotation. He threw 173 innings last year. This is not a guy that you have to work up towards a bunch of innings. He already knows, and we already know that he can deliver those innings for the Cardinals.
Is there any plans with Steven Matz? Is it still him being a starter and bullpen guy? He's
the 6th man in a 6-man rotation that may or may not exist anymore. I believe he has one more start, but then after that, I think he goes back to the pen. But that might change with Palante. We would have thought a few weeks ago that maybe they would try to do something with Miles Mikolas. Now Miles Mikolas, aside from the one game in Boston, has a 2.39 ERA in his other games. Sonny Gray, even though
Mikolas is going today, so we'll see how that stands.
He'll be fine.
Yeah,
he'll be good. Sonny Gray is not going anywhere. They're paying him $25 million this year. He may or may not pitch well. Liberatore, this is a fun fact, and we'll talk about this tomorrow a little bit more, but I want to give you this fact right now. In the National League, starting pitchers 25 and under. Hunter Green, number 1 in ERA. Paul Skeens, number 2 in ERA. Matthew Liberatore, number 3 in ERA. So your top 3 ERA pitchers in the National League under 25 are Green, Skeens, and Liberatore. That's how good Matthew Liberatore has been. 3.44 ERA.
I like Matthew Liberatore a lot.
I do
I think the Cardinals handled this situation perfectly. It worried me because I don't think they've handled the Matthew Liberatore situation great in the past,
Mhm.
where of course he wasn't going to succeed when you gave him such short notice, treated him as a swingman. As I mentioned, that's why I don't want this to happen to younger players, where it feels like they're not getting a right or even proper shot
Mhm.
at the role that they're trying to get. They let him come into the season preparing as a starter. They didn't yank the job away from him or say, oh, well, we're having a struggling bullpen. We need you in the bullpen now. They made sure to give him the proper time.
They'll say it runway. That's
Runway.
exactly.
I'm trying
the
to
word.
avoid the word
But
runway at this
Ollie
point.
used it. They all use it, and so
Yeah.
they used it the other day. So that's the only one we can give. And oh, by the way, along those lines, had the conversation because we have it here about Gorman and Walker,
Mm.
and he said, we're not going to give up on these guys. He said there is an end to a runway, as I sent you one time a gift. Sometimes the runway ends and the plane crashes, but I said these guys were so good in 2023. I said, do you try to get them back or do you try to move forward? And he said, the worst thing you can do is try to get them back to where they were. He said, they had their success. The league adjusted to them and now they have to adjust back.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, a month and a week just isn't enough time because these guys do have ability and they just have to get the most out of that ability and turn them into players rather than athletes.
And I see the trade conversations too of like, do you move on from these guys? I think that's the point of the season, though, is that it's painful. It's very painful to see some of these guys struggle. And I think that a lot of people feel like they have seen enough of Nolan Gorman and they want to move on from him. I would hate to see him go find success elsewhere, is my concern.
Well,
and this is the
done
season.
that.
If we're trying to see a guy throughout a full season, this is the best time to be able to practice that and see how it works out.
100%. Because here's the thing. Let's just use Nolan Gorman as an example, and we've got somebody that always texts in and says he's got 1,000 at bats. It's funny to talk to people that played in the 80s and 90s, and they said it used to be 2,500 minor league at bats. That's what you needed.
Mm-hmm.
And Nolan Gorman has 1,000 at bats in the majors and like 1,700 overall, something like that. But it used to be 2,500 minor league at bats was what you needed. Well, if you trade Nolan Gorman, who is going to turn 26 this week, I believe. I'll double check that for you, but I believe he turns 26.
Happy almost birthday.
Yeah.
No, he's 24 right now.
Oh, so he turns 25 on May 7th. Is that right?
I'm trying to find they don't actually have the birth date right here on the old Wikipedia, but let me find out.
So anyway,
May 20th. Yes.
May 20th.
Yes,
so maybe
soon.
Walker is May 7th. I think one of them is May 7th. Anyway, here's the thing. You traded Randy Arozarena and he went off, right? And then we said, well, you should have given him a chance. Now you're giving guys a chance. And if they fail here and succeed elsewhere, what are you going to say? Well, we need to give them more of a chance. I think the Cardinals need to find out for themselves whether or not these talented young players can play and not find out from another organization.
Yes, because we've seen that over and over again. Even we were joking the other day with Ryan Ludus. I mean, the Dodgers picking up, it's like, great. Now we're going to see this guy be the guy for them in their bullpen.
Yeah. And I might even go so far as to say, you know what? Chaim Bloom is watching these guys. He knows these guys. Let Chaim Bloom make the decision when he takes over.
Yes.
I
feel like that's fair.
I have faith in him. I don't know why, but I do have faith in him. I mean, he did trade
and
Mookie.
Chaim you trust.
Yeah, well,
It
he
felt
traded
like,
Mookie Betts for Alex Verdugo.
But that was something that I felt like was more ownership
was
decision.
Forced. It was, but he just, the point is he didn't get great talent in exchange for.
Yeah, you're never going to win a Mookie Betts trade.
You're never
going to
win, but at least you can get close. I mean, the guy could still be with Boston at least.
True. Yeah, that's very true.
So anyway, I'm completely on board with the Cardinals giving these guys the opportunity to either be good or not good. And the guy who hits the ball the hardest for the Cardinals is Jordan Walker. He hits the ball really hard. Now, it doesn't go where you want it to go all the time, but he does hit it hard. Nolan Gorman, all he needs to do is touch the ball. If Nolan Gorman touches the ball, it goes. Now, is touching the ball a problem? Yes, but it's something that you have to deal with and work with. And if he doesn't get better, then you move on from him.
Lipsis 150 says, but he hits it into the ground, talking about Jordan Walker when you were talking about him specifically.
And that's something that you would hope can get fixed. And that's what the Cardinals and the staff and Jordan are all working on, is But he even hits hard ground balls. He does hit the ball hard. So you just need to get it up in the. He needs to do what Holiday did, what Jack Clark did. He needs to be that sort of a hitter.
And Jordan Walker is just 22 years old. And you think about in his short career with the majors that he's been up, when he has been up, there's been so many things going on, a different position that he had to adjust to in the minors on a very short notice and learn on the fly. And it felt like then defensively he's had to work on things, and then the hitting approach. I mean, it's been a lot that he's gone through. He's been through different hitting coaches in his career. He went through Jeff Albert's system, and then he went through Turner Ward, and now he's with Brant Brown. There's many different things that he's gone through in just a short amount of time. I think you got to give a 22-year-old a little bit more time to marinate there.
You're giving him a full season.
Exactly.
I think it's great. And hey, I'm sure people that over the course of the first 5 weeks of this season said, "Hey, you got to DFA Alec Burleson." Well, he's
finally
another
an
guy.
extra base hit for him the other day. Yeah.
He had a home run last night. Sometimes you just have to. You use the word marinate. You have to let these guys marinate or bake or get to where they're going to get. And sometimes it doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it does. Albert Pujols was awesome when he was 20, but
he's an outlier. I would say
he is an outlier. Yeah,
not the exception.
Matthew, you wanted to weigh in here?
They marinated Albert Pujols. They keep baking all these other guys.
Oh,
okay.
No, you're saying they're leaving him in the oven too long?
There's no flavor. I mean, they're just doing a
but
poor
that's
job.
the point. They need some seasoning. When
I
you're
agree.
marinating, you're getting
I
some more
agree.
seasoning in there. Some extra spices. Add a little paprika. That always is a good addition to a
It
meal.
is. Paprika's good.
It is.
Is it now time to talk about food?
Somebody
Usually,
said, you got to start.
it happens
Can we do that before we get to food, though?
Which is very important.
Matthew brought up a horrible memory for me. So I'm just going to run down the play-by-play of this 2003 NFC Divisional Playoff game.
Oh, God.
Not the whole game. Okay.
Does this one bother you so much just because it's against the grain for everything else Mike Martz did?
Yes, that's part of it. Yeah, part of it. No doubt about it. Okay, so here's what happens. The Rams are down 23-12. Okay. And they take over, and they rumble down, and with 2:44 left, Marshall scores on a 1-yard touchdown run. The 2-point conversion is good. So the Rams are down 23-20. Okay. By the way, that was a good drive. They take over with 6:29 to go. They move from their own 43 to the touchdown, score the touchdown with 2:44 left. Let's see. Marshall does. And then they I'm just flustered here. Okay, so they get the touchdown. Yeah, they were too. Okay, so you get the touchdown. You're down 23-20. Onside kick recovered by Jeff Wilkins. So Rams have the ball, 1st and 10, own 42-yard line, 2:38 to go. Still have 2 timeouts left. No, 1 timeout left. At the 2:38 mark, Bulger passes incomplete to Isaac for 20. So now you're down at the Carolina 38. Bulger to Bruce for 13. Carolina 25-yard line. 1:24 to go. You still have a timeout left. Bulger complete to Falk for 6. You're down at the Carolina 19. Bulger has completed 3 passes in a row for 39 yards. Then you run Marshall right end for 4 yards. So you're at the Carolina 15-yard line, and you let the clock run from 42 seconds. You don't spike it. You got it first down. You don't spike it. You let the clock run from 42 seconds down to 3, and then you kick the field goal. There was ample opportunity for the Rams to spike the ball and take a shot in the end zone from the 19-yard line. The Rams did not. They kicked the field goal, then they lose in double overtime. Why the Rams didn't try to throw it into the end zone a couple of times from the 19-yard line is beyond me.
I could tell that we were talking about marinating. This is something that Randy has been marinating on for a while.
22 years.
And we even had talked to Mark Bulger in the past,
Yeah.
and you used to rip on him, but it seems like you guys have a good relationship.
We have a good
now.
relationship now.
But what was it like back then?
So I was unfair to Mark Bulger because he wasn't Kurt Warner. And Mark, he handled such everything, all of the barbs and all the riffs. And it wasn't just me.
I feel like
No.
every fan.
I feel like it's fair to say the media and the fans en masse
Yeah.
held that opinion pretty universally in the city.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
somebody like Howard Balzer actually got a reputation for being like the only guy who would
Would
say
defend
positive things about him.
Right. And I don't think that there's any question that Mark got hurt and he got gun shy.
Yep.
The Rams offensive line caused him to get gun shy, and we blamed him rather than the offensive line. And I subsequently, and it was on our show, I think, that I apologized to him, and he said, "Yeah, it's all right." He knew though. I would always make sure that whatever I said on the radio, I would say to him in person. But it wasn't always pleasant. And part of it was he wasn't great in the red zone. He could really spin it, but he was stuck behind a terrible offensive line with a terrible team, with a franchise that had just fallen off the cliff after they let go of Mike Martz. So, but Bulger was a really, really good, underrated in the history of the league quarterback.
Yeah. And now,
So,
and now
and I
he
like
owns
him.
his own. What is it called?
It's
again?
a curling facility
in
in
Nashville.
Yeah.
I've actually seen a lot of people go out there to that.
So, and he wants us to do a show from there.
We should.
We should go down there and do that. Yeah.
I want to try curling. It looks like a very fun sport. If there was a sport that you could pick
shoot.
up just randomly, is it curling?
That's right there. T-line is what it's called. T-E-E, T-line in Nashville. So, yeah, I'll shoot him a text and say we want to do something this summer.
Yeah, we could do it. A trip down to Nashville.
We can do it. We can make it happen. We can broadcast
It's easy.
anywhere with this whole setup.
Hey, Mark, you got an internet connection down there?
Yeah, there you go.
You got Wi-Fi?
They got that in Tennessee.
Here's my food check, by the way.
Food, yeah. Go
As
ahead.
this could be
yes.
Ben says, paprika on eggs is amazing. I just want to send this out to all restaurants around St. Louis.
Mhm.
If you
I'm
have
afraid what
things
you're
on
gonna
your
say.
menu that you bread, which is, I'm talking to a lot of restaurants right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's all I'm asking for. Just a little bit of seasoning in the breading. Just like a little bit of seasoning in the breading. And I
Is
know you
there-
got to keep it kind of universal so that people don't like it and they can add to it, but it's just the littlest bit of seasoning.
Like what seasoning
in
are
the
you looking
breading.
for? Like Italian
I mean,
seasoning?
I don't know. I'm just saying like a
or-
little pepper. Maybe just a tad bit of salt.
okay.
Maybe a little bit of paprika, smoked paprika, a nice universal flavor that just gives it a little hint of, I just want when I get a tender, when I get a
Mhm.
chicken breast,
Mhm.
when I get a piece of fish that is breaded and fried, I just want a little bit more flavor inside.
Oh, you're talking about like the breading.
I'm
of,
talking
like
the breading,
I thought he was
not
talking about, like,
actual bread. No.
bread.
I'm
I was
saying
like,
when
huh?
you're
Breading.
breading a food
Okay.
item, when you're breading a food item, I just need I'm not saying go heavy. I'm not saying make it everything spicy, but just give me a little bit of flavor in the breading. is
Kind
all
of
I'm
like
saying.
the Nashville hot that now for whatever reason is so commercialized. That's a big part of like Nashville hot chicken is that there's actually a lot of spices in the breading.
Yeah,
You know
like
what?
I first of all, you should be seasoning the meat too, but like it's always clear if you're going to breading and you're doing the whole egg wash flour side, and if you look
Mhm.
at your flour and you sift through the flour and there's no specks of any seasoning in there, you have under seasoned the flour and you're breading the food wrong.
Okay. A couple of ideas for y'all.
Mhm.
Number one, if you're another restaurant, don't tell anybody you're doing this. Secret seasoning at the Smokehouse in Chesterfield.
Mm.
Mwah. Spectacular.
I have that at home.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kinder seasoning at Costco. You can buy that for your restaurant. Kinder
I have
seasoning.
that too.
It's great.
Yes,
There you go. See, you
yes.
got to figure it out. And on Amazon, Dano's seasoning. Dano's.
Also,
I've never heard of that. one.
Lowry seasoned salt.
Oh yeah.
Just
Yep.
a couple little on the bottom of a Lowry seasoned salt over whatever
Mhm.
you're about to eat. You're fine. You're good. You're go.
So there's a lot of good ideas then. Okay, good. I'm liking this. I think we're making progress here. Okay, so I need you to know about what's going on with our friends at DraftKings Pick 6. It is awesome. It is fun to play, and you can play tonight if you so desire. It's for baseball, your fastball right down the middle. All you need to do is in any sport, pick 2 players or more and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. It's available in most states, including Missouri, Georgia, California, Texas, and more. So like SGA tonight, 32.5 points, more or less. I'm going to take that SGA is going to wind up with less than 32.5. That might be a gamble, but I'm going to go with it anyway. So Oklahoma City playing against Denver, I'm going to go with SGA. So I like that a lot. And then I think I'm going to go with maybe our guy Tatum, maybe Jason Tatum against the Knicks. I'm going to go with less than 27.5. against the Knicks
Randy,
for Jason Tatum.
they just post on Twitter right now his youth
City.
football highlights are going viral.
Oh, really?
He's dropping 50. He's dropping 50 on these people tonight.
Okay. Woo, I hope he does for our sake.
Woo.
But I'm going to gamble that he's going to get less than 27.5. Not really a gamble, it's a skill. And SGA is going to have more than 32.5. And that is going to be my 2 for pick 6 from DraftKings. You know, it's pretty cool because if you use the promo code STL Sports, you can get $50 in pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. DraftKings pick 6. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, it's Monday. If there's one thing that you need to accomplish this week, is make sure that you've subscribed to this page, the YouTube page, and like the video if you haven't already, and go to the Sports Hub STL website, sportshubstl.com, and sign up for the Hub newsletter. You can get great information and opinion from Bernie. It's sent to your inbox twice a week and anytime St. Louis sports news breaks. And you're going to be the first to know about Sports Hub STL events and merchandise, get exclusive content and prize opportunities, and more. And while you're on the site, check out all the St. Louis sports content, including game recaps, programming highlights, sports news and opinion, gambling tips, and more. It's all on the website at sportshubstl.com. Brooke, did you want to talk about the Derby a little bit, or did we talk enough about the
No,
Derby?
I think we're good.
We are?
I think we're good. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. I was just saying before the show, I don't really care about the Kentucky Derby. I think it's interesting, but it's not really exciting to me.
Dexter
And-
Fowler was there.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Good for him.
cool.
Yeah.
See, that's cool. But I don't find the Kentucky Derby interesting or whatsoever. And so when I was back in
If
TV in
Patriots-
Arkansas, then I got made fun of. Well, I made a little joke. I just made like a little tiny joke. I can't remember what I said, but I just said it was just an excuse for people to drink, what is it? The
Mint
juleps,
juleps.
the mint juleps, and like wear big, ridiculous hats. I made like a little joke and then I moved on with the highlights as you do in TV, right?
Mhm.
Oh,
And
no.
the amount of phone calls that our TV station got where people wanted me fired because I mentioned
Trying to
two
take away our
little
heritage.
jokey things about the Kentucky Derby, you would have thought I murdered somebody. So yeah, I think it's okay. I don't think it's that exciting. It's just it's there.
Randy,
It's there.
I don't know about you, but ever since a few years ago, the Derby just doesn't hit unless a former Patriots wide receiver is getting arrested for MDMA.
I think that's a very valid point.
It's just
Yeah.
it misses something now.
There'll be
Yeah.
a mint julep waiting for you on the other side.
The Secretariat story is very interesting that every single horse
Mhm.
is part of his little tree of what
The
is
big
it
tree,
again?
600.
Yeah, like so a lot of them are attached to Secretariat. I think there's little interesting
Secretary has
stories
more
along-
kids than Elon Musk.
That's hard to do. He has a lot. Do you think that there's even more out there than what we know with
Probably.
Elon Musk?
Yeah, probably.
Why didn't the girl just take 15 million from him?
I'd take it.
These are the questions that I have.
Yeah, I never had
You
a
would
baby, but I would take it.
You could have a baby with Elon Musk and because you took the 15 million, we wouldn't know. You take the 15 million in that
Yeah.
situation. But yeah, that's my one controversial take is that I don't like the Kentucky Derby that much. And maybe it's because I don't like Kentucky.
That's fair enough.
I don't know.
Yeah, the whole
it.
state. The whole
That's-
state.
The whole
Kentucky,
state.
about Louisville?
Kentucky, Tennessee
No.
is like a Missouri, Kansas
Mhm.
thing, right?
Yeah, it's just that it kind of feels sad more than anything because Kentucky, they haven't accomplished much
Again,
in
bro,
sports. So
Again, it's kind of like a Missouri, Kansas thing.
yeah, it is. I can see that.
You
So-
were like, no, it's different. We feel really sorry for Kentucky. Sounds pretty
Mhm.
similar to me.
I just
So-
don't like it. I don't know. I think if I went there, maybe I'd like it. It always rains every year.
Yeah.
And then I get worried about if I see a horse injured. I think it's more about
Oh,
the
yeah, that's bad.
animals
Yeah.
that I worry. And I know they
Oh.
get taken care of really well,
Mhm.
but then I just worry that they're going to
So-
get hurt.
One thing I
That's-
heard from former Louisville coach Rick Pitino is that there's restaurants there where you can go in there and have something quick.
Okay,
And this is where we need to end the show.
I was going to
This is
say
where
I
we
got
need
in
to
a
end the
really
show.
bad dad joke
No.
on the chat. Lipsis said, "Have you ever seen Churchill Downs? It's even bigger in person than it is on TV." My response to that is, yeah, it only looks like it's like 4 feet big on my TV.
I can't.
I knew Randy would get that.
Hey, I enjoy doing the Battlehawks Hub Weekly post-game show on Friday night after the Battlehawks 12-6 win over the Arlington Renegades. You need to check it out. Judy Strotter and Luke Slaybaugh usually do it, but Luke was out of town for a wedding, so I got to do it on Friday, and they're going to get you all set for all of the action that the Battlehawks have, and I had a couple of those this weekend.
So did you actually have it during the post-game show?
No, because the post-game show ran so late. So
I know. I was wondering that.
yeah.
I was like,
But
you're
then
going to eat
bought
it
two of them.
late.
So I had one early, and then I had one on a leftover on Saturday. Absolutely delicious. As you see there, it's fantastic. You'll love having your Battlehawks recipe chicken Battlehawks box, and you can score up to 30% off Battlehawks tickets and get 4 of their famous breast strips and a side of potato wedges for just $8.99. I went to the one on the Rock Road, only at Lee's, famous for chicken, and big supporters of the St. Louis Battlehawks. Caw-caw!
Caw-caw!
There we go. This was fun, and we're glad that you were able to get some of your angst out after the bad loss that the Blues suffered. And we'll find out tomorrow if they fire Jim Montgomery.
Well, that's the good thing about Sports Hub STL is that we'll be the ones to help break that down for you if they fire Jim Montgomery. What does this say? Ellipsis 150 says, Blues should have said, F you, Jobu, I do it myself.
Yeah.
Forgot the key part of leaning on Jobu is at one point you got to say, F you, Jobu, I'll do it myself.
Maybe we'll find out who brought in Jobu. That's been the big mystery this season.
So here's one. Elon has a lot of kids, but still in the minors compared to Antonio Rogers Cromartie. Wasn't it the other Cromartie? Well,
yes, Dominique Rogers Cromartie is the guy with the hyphenated last name.
Yeah.
Antonio Cromartie is his cousin, who much older. Dominique Rogers Cromartie came in through the draft 5 or 6 years later. Antonio Cromartie of the Chargers and then Jets was the one with the kids issues. I believe it was Jets Hard Knocks.
Yeah, right. Madonna. They asked him to name his 13 kids, and he names 12, and then he goes with the last one is Madonna.
That disappoints me because I will always remember Antonio Cromartie, the proper way to remember Antonio Cromartie, which is he had 3 picks on the 6-pick night of Peyton Manning when the San Diego Chargers took down the Colts. And again, picked off Peyton Manning 6 times in one game.
Wow.
Cromartie got 3 of them. One of them was the one-handed one that you see him. He's got the baby blue Charger, and he full extends one-hand pick. It's one of the greatest pictures in the last 20 years of football.
Does Antonio have 10 different baby mamas? Or
that's what I was going to ask. Well, more impressive, 3 picks against Peyton Manning or 13 kids from 10 baby mamas?
I still think it's 3 picks against Peyton Manning in one game.
I don't know. That's a lot of baby mamas to juggle.
Yeah,
so that's pretty impressive.
You're a man, first of all. You got your entire time on Earth after the first 15 years to have kids. You only have 7 or 8 probably career games against Peyton Manning.
That might be.
And one of them you picked off 3 passes.
Okay, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Elon Musk never picked off Peyton Manning
You're
3
damn
times.
Right.
No, he didn't.
Peyton Manning,
and neither did Secretariat.
Peyton Manning's probably going to go to space one day, so Elon's not even going to have that on him.
Peyton Manning wouldn't do that.
He wouldn't go to space? You don't think so?
No.
That head and no gravity.
Oh, don't make fun of his head.
I also have a large head I'm allowed.
You're allowed. That's true.
Right. Brooke,
we'll
did you
let
have
it
fun
pass.
today?
Yes.
And you are out tomorrow, right? Another doctor's appointment?
Yes, we're at doctor's appointment central right now.
Brooke is pregnant.
No.
She didn't have work done on her face. She's pregnant.
Can we? That's like a constant thing now. Is that people keep saying I had work done on my face, and then somebody created fan fiction about me where they said this has been going on for 2 years, and I'm like, what? What do you mean? 2 years?
That's quite a gestation period.
If you were pregnant for 2 years and just
no, they're talking about my face. I guess the amount of work done has been going on periodically for 2 years, and so then it was at that moment that I quit replying to that person because I'm like, that's a little scary. It's more like I don't even get angry at those comments. It's more that I get scared when you kind of put timetables and certain tidbits like that because I'm like,
watching you.
Oh,
we've been watching you.
I want the person out there who has a theory that Brooke's been pregnant for 2 years and everyone just refuses to address the fact.
That it's just, yeah.
It
that-
just hasn't changed yet.
Yeah.
You've gone through 2 pregnancies and we're like, yeah, Brooke is still pregnant. We're so happy for her.
So tomorrow is a doctor's appointment. So I think Brendan is going to be in here, right?
B-Shafe?
Brendan Schaefer?
Be safe.
B-Shafe. There we go. Great job today by our producer, audio video engineer, Matthew Rocchio.
Do you have something you want to say to Wilson as we exit?
Wilson, I'm not going to punch you out today, but be careful when you're wearing that jersey around the streets of St. Louis. You are in America's most dangerous city, after all.
Yes, it's very true.
Yeah.
At least we're number one at something.
Yeah, we are. we are.
We're number one.
We're
number one.
Yeah. When we say, I'll kill you, we aren't joking.
It's a real threat.
For Brooke and Matthew and the entire team, don't forget Sports Hub STL Cardinal 365 postgame tonight after the game. And we will see you tomorrow morning at 10:02. So long, everybody.